Hi, my name is Laurie Laizure, and this is To the Trade podcast with interior design community. And of course, I have Nile with me. Hi, Nile.
Hi.
It's so great to have you back. How was your vacation?
It was great. It was
Ugh,
not long enough, but it was wonderful.
are they ever long enough? I mean,
No,
no.
no.
And
I think
Mitzi,
the
you were
older
on
I get, the
vacation
longer they need to
too.
be.
Yeah. Niall, you have a radio voice,
He
TV
does.
announcer.
Ugh,
Oh,
Your
good.
voice, it's like hand cream. It is so
Oh,
smooth.
I love that.
that
It
has to go
is.
on the business cards now,
Oh
Nile.
my gosh. I love
It
that.
is. It is. I
I
mean, you
love that.
just you spoke two words and I'm like, oh, I like this fella. So, and I mean that in utmost respect, Niall.
No, I had a client tell me that.
Mm.
One of my most recent clients tell me that, and I'm thinking, does this mean I will get the rest of the project? Like, will I get the rest of the
Uh-huh.
spaces? Because you like my
Uh-huh.
voice so much. So yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard that before. I have. Thank
Well,
you.
I think voice communicates a lot if you are softer spoken, especially in our world where it can be so abrupt.
Yeah.
And also, I'm just going to say it, arrogant. And
Hmm.
with your softer side, in a very masculine, whatever way you want to take that. I'm not into all that. I just don't want to offend anybody, but it's a good calling card, Niall.
It
No,
is.
thank you. I embrace it. Thank you so much. I
And that's
appreciate
why he's
that.
doing a podcast. He's
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, uh,
he's got the voice.
yeah,
And of
yeah.
course, Mitzi Beach, you're our guest. I've known Mitzi now for, I want to say, close to 11 years. We've started Interior
More,
Design Community in
yeah.
2009. So you were one of the founding members of Interior Design Community. And I
And
remember my very first time at High Point meeting you. So, and meeting your husband. And so it's really exciting to have you here on our
I
podcast. 'Cause of
love
course,
it.
you were a part of like when we used to do the original
Hmm.
Google Live
Hmm.
hangouts, and
Right,
now
right. And
we're
I
doing
loved
this.
it. I remember you at KBiz, one of the first ones that I went to. It was in Vegas, and I was a deer in headlights. And I was doing something, a panel on, I think, life sizing, actually, Laurie. And here you were with Susan, and you had a camera, and you guys were scurrying around. And I thought, they must be famous. Look at them with
It
their
always freaks
camera.
me out if anyone thinks that, but
I
because
was like,
no,
so,
absolutely
I
not.
was so in awe. And then we ended up connecting, and it's like, well, we're just all the same.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, one of the things that I have admired about you since I very first came in this industry is you were one of the first designers that I know that was really talking about aging in place.
Mhm.
And you were also talking about it from a perspective of not just like, how can I get a design client and help them age in place, but how can we as a design community educate the public
Right,
that will help keep them safe, help keep them,
exactly.
in their homes, happy, like living
Mhm.
life in a healthy way.
Right.
And you really, I think that you were the first person I was just thinking like she gets that design is also an education. You
Right.
know, when we when
Absolutely.
you see it in a magazine or you see it and people
Mhm.
are talking about it in a way that it relates to an everyday person who may not be able to afford a designer,
I
but
know.
it's that important. Design and designing for people and for their health is the most important thing that any of us can do, right?
That's where I am now. I'm going to make a leap and then we'll come back. We'll go back.
Sure.
Thinking about this since I've been doing this part of the design world since I think I did my copyright on life sizing in 202 or 20, somewhere in there. And I've had it renewed once and it's coming up again. I can't believe it's every 10 years. But was the fact that there's a missing link in the opportunities we have as a design, having that opportunity to be in that personal space and see what else could be. It just was such a overwhelming shock, actually, when I would see what was supposedly good design. And what it was pretty design. It was beautiful. But if it doesn't function and it's not comfortable, and this is even beyond the aging in place, this is just basic interior design. So if you, I mean, it's kind of like a curse, but a blessing at the same time. I mean, I can analyze, and this is just because it's what we do. You do things, Nile, you do things, and it's like this to you. I can go in any space, doctor's office, whatever, and I'll go ding, 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 ding. This is good. This is like, what were they thinking? Kind of thing, because all three of those components must be present. They must
Right.
be designed in. They don't just happen. The wellness aspect, which goes into the lighting and tons of things. And I think as much as I love my peers, love my colleagues, many of them don't get it.
Right.
I
Right.
just have to sadly say. Uh, and the reason it's sad to me is because they could give so much that they already have in them. They know all this stuff, but
Right.
it hasn't come to the forefront that, oh, I can offer this, because aging, first of all, is like a four-letter word to most people. You can't, so you have to go around the bush and figure out how to make it palatable. And that's a science all on its own. I
Right.
mean, we work with high-end, beautiful, wonderful people, and they'll say, Mitzi, when I need that, I'll call you.
Right.
And I'm like, honey, you don't know when you're going to have a knee replacement.
Right.
It's simple things.
Simple
People,
things. Absolutely.
I mean, how many people do you guys know that have fallen and twisted an ankle and they're on crutches and they
Right.
can't get upstairs to go to use their shower or whatnot? Just basic. And so it's just, I think it's just, we're meant to do certain things, like you all are doing what you're doing. And but at the same time, when we know that we have, quote, a calling or a purpose to do something, then you can't just rest and say, okay, people are going to know and they're going to embrace everything that I'm trying to help them or teach them. It's a journey, and it's just like what you're doing. I mean, you keep changing who you are, Laurie, and we have to, right? I mean, we can't stay just doing what you were doing with Susan way back,
Yes.
Google Chat and all that. I mean, who does that?
No, it's not, it doesn't exist anymore.
No, no.
So can't
So
do that.
I didn't mean to get off on
No,
that. So
it's okay.
sorry
It's okay.
about that.
It's really exciting that it's good that things change, right? It's a good thing that that we all experience that growth and that change, but it's also, and I know where you're going with, design for aging in place is sometimes it is scary to think about that. It's certainly to pigeonhole yourself as someone who is doing
Right,
accessible design.
right,
Because you think of handicap bathrooms and
right,
things like
right,
that, you know what I mean? Like that's what your
right.
mind goes to. And it's just simple, it's educating yourself about what is available that would feel accessible and doesn't necessarily look like it's for aging in place. And you've done that for years. I mean,
And really, the way I've gotten around the stigma on many fronts is that everyone deserves safe design.
sure.
Everyone. So if you have little ones, Niall, like you do, and you are schlepping, car seats or all this jazz, maybe you're beyond that, but still there's paraphernalia that comes with
Hmm.
family.
Hmm.
And so just maneuvering in your house, just having the function of bringing back the beloved mudroom so that when
Hmm.
you walk in, you have a place to put all that stuff.
Yep.
And at our age, we have laptops, we have all kinds of stuff that we're still, and having home businesses, you get all this coming in. And what if you don't have a storage, where does it go? On your kitchen counter, right?
Right.
Or at the floor of the garage entrance. So this whole thing is about the function. I said, does, three things. Number one, does it function? Number two, is it comfortable? And then number three, is it beautiful? And under function comes the wellness, the preparing for life staging, or you could break it into the wellness factor. I could just talk forever, so I'll
No,
shut.
I love it. This is some of the wisdom that you've had for these years, in that you relate. So from the design industry, and I think Niall, you get this too, is like we recognize boomer, the boomer market is where the money is right now. We know
Right,
that. We all know that,
right,
and that if you're servicing the boomer market, you're going to do okay because there are a ton of them.
right.
So,
That's really my market,
yeah,
is
and they're,
yes.
thinking about what they're looking at, and they're, a lot of them have active lifestyles still. They're
No,
playing pickleball. They're
my
out there
friends are,
rollerblading.
yeah, they are not sitting around like waiting for
They're
somebody
not
to,
knitting in a knitting circle.
no, no.
They might be
I'm the,
surfing. So
oh, yeah,
how do we address that market, give them an active lifestyle, not make them feel like they're, old, but still protect them from, with good design that will give them, a longer life because they're not having injuries from their own home. And I think that's something that constantly does happen. And I know my grandmother, the reason she moved back in with my mother and hated it, every minute of it, she wanted to stay in Florida so
yeah,
badly,
yeah.
but she had a fall and she was
Huh?
afraid to be in her house because her balance issues, and she,
Had her home been upgraded? Would that
it
have helped?
had been, but she chose, a second floor condo, so there's walking up
Oh,
the stairs, and she actually did pass out a couple of times. So it was just, she was 85, I think, when she had to move back in with my mom, so I think it was time anyway, but she
I don't
loved her
know.
home. She
I
loved her friends.
I don't know. The 80s are not so much anymore. Like, oh my gosh, we got to take care of these people. There's
Not
people.
always. I don't think always, but for
No,
her,
I'm not saying, and
yeah, yeah.
and I get that because my
She
mom.
definitely, she definitely thought that I meant that. I remember we had a really hard conversation because I was telling her I didn't think she could drive anymore
Yeah.
because I went to her house and she didn't see it, but she had lots of dings all over her car. So I was saying, Graham, you've
Oh,
been in a lot of accidents
that's
already.
a
You just
red
don't know
flag.
that,
Yeah.
but
Well, and
she was
getting it back,
heartbroken.
I understand that because we love our family, we love wherever age they are, but it just depends on the person, but it really depends on what environment they are living in. And a lot of the people, my relatives or friends or whatnot, I think, it's just very fortunate that they've made it this far living in that environment.
Right,
It's like, holy cow. I mean, I just want to get in there and just take trash bags and just throw this crap away. That's, just a real tripping hazard. And
right.
I can't tell you how many, my mom, that little devil she was, she was very sassy and we got along. But here's a perfect example. Throw rugs. I mean, I go crazy with these throw rugs. Okay, so here's my mom. She knows I'm coming because my whole family's been in Ohio. And so we've never lived in Ohio until these last few years, but I'd visit all the time. And so she knew I was coming and she'd pick up the throw rugs. And then Kim, my sister's here, and she go, Mitz, as soon as you leave, she puts those rugs right back down. I was like,
Why
Mom,
are you doing that?
and that's such a hazard,
It is.
and they're unnecessary. And
Yes.
it's that generation that, for the dirt, oh my gosh, you can't step on the floors and you can't do this and that. So there's that. But anyway, you asked me a question, but I want to definitely talk about life sizing and what that means. So whenever you're ready.
Yes, absolutely. Your book is so great. Have it.
Thank
Design
you.
Smarts.
Thank you.
And but you've been teaching beyond design for a long time. But let's start. You had a CE for years about aging in place and about design. Why did you even start pursuing that?
Well, because I thought it was a vehicle to educate us designers. And most designers really want to learn, and they're open sponges. And so when I said that a lot of designers don't get it, that was harsh. What I should have said, what I meant to say is their minds haven't been opened yet. They haven't been exposed to how this is not this, like you said, Laurie, a nursing home look. It's way beyond that. You know, even now with acrylic, we don't say guardrails, we say handrails. You know,
Right.
there's a whole vocabulary. We don't say surgery or an operation. We have procedures. You know,
Yes.
it's
I agree.
that dialogue that can make one feel like this is normal everyday function. And you know, it used to be, what was it called? We call them comfort toilets now, but they used to be high, whatever. It was an ugly term. And so just the terminology, teaching designers to be aware of how they talk. At one point, I called it boomerese or something, you know. But anyway, it's that because 10,000 Americans every day go into this, are turned 65. And that many, is close to that many in America that turn 50. So we don't have to be rocket scientists, do we, to realize that we are in an aging America. And where have our builders, developers, designers, architects been to keep up with this demographic huge shift?
Right.
So it's starting to trickle down. And I'm glad you were at KBIS, Laurie, and got to experience all that. I haven't been for a couple years, but in other resources, I've been able to keep up, not as much as seeing and putting it, but that things are changing and designers are getting excited about these products. Just okay, off the top, the bidet is now like, whoa, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
Even if you're just pregnant and
Right.
you have these issues. So that's what I mean.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are lots of great new products that
Mhm.
I remember seeing when I was at KBiz, there's a product that I forget the name. I'm forgetting blanking on the name, but um
Is that the toilet that can go up
no,
and down?
no, that one was interesting too, but it's
Yeah.
if you have a drawer and you can have it for your kitchen or you can have it for your bathroom and the plugs are in it, but if you open the drawer or the electricity turns on, and if you shut the drawer, the electricity turns
Every
off.
female loves that.
So
What
for
do
like
we
a
do
curling
with our
iron, I don't
curling
know how
iron?
many times my husband said, like, you left your curling iron on again, or you left your flat iron.
Wow.
He's like, you're gonna burn the house down, which of course I'm
Uh-huh.
like, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
But
and that was Revishelf is a company that's been
Revishelf
way
does
ahead.
it, sure. And then there's another company too. I'll find it by the time we're done. And
Okay.
they were great too. And I loved their drawers. And they had even like the kitchen, your little coffee maker for your kitchen garage and all of that. You open it up, the power's on, you close it, the power's off.
And Roburn, a lot of people are wanting to have their not necessarily medication. My husband was on something that needed refrigerated, but I found out that a lot of women keep their makeup chilled and or
Huh,
nail
yeah.
polish. And Roburn, Robern, they're a German company, and they've been into this because you know in Italy they don't have the luxury of the space we have. So
Right.
every inch in their function to get functional spaces is very, critical.
And they're actually good at it. I mean, going to Italy,
Right.
going to Europe, you can see if you rent an
Yes.
Airbnb how functional their storage is.
Yeah.
They're pretty good at it. And that company, by the way, was dockingdrawer.com.
Okay.
If you want to check them out, I thought they were interesting. I sent them over to Kendrick and Cole. They're having a podcast about K-Biz.
Okay.
And I thought that was a really neat
Are
product
Kelly
because of
and
that.
Joanne are having that, did you
They're
say?
going to be talking about all of the K-Biz
Okay.
top finds. So they asked me what I thought was the top find, and I really thought that was super useful. Like I know I would
Uh,
use it.
tell me what it is again,
It's
Laura.
called dockingdrawer.com.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, even when we did our rent-a-wreck in Wichita, Cyprus, and this is a 1930s house, Nile, that we, like a crazy people, we totally redid it, but kept the architectural features because that's what you do with this. I mean, I think that's wise with the historical structure to not level it,
Yeah.
and why bother, if that's your point. But anyway, we did it as an aging in place house to be for me and Bob, but also we called it our living lab. And I had classes there. We had a lot of tours. The last tour I had there before we left, there were 500 people. It was an ASID tour. I think that was the one, or was a symphony tour. Anyway, it was our great pleasure to have these tours because people would go like, well, why do they say this is aging in place? They could not tell.
Right.
If done right, you have no clue. And so it was really, for instance, Niall, the stairs were 4 feet wide.
Hmm.
So if you're going up and down, whether you're carrying baby, kitty, backpacks, or suitcases, man, is that an asset. Not to, and
Hmm.
you don't, mess up the walls and all that, but it's safe. See, it's safe when you have that space around you. So those are things that were there, but
Right.
all these wonderful people that toured, they didn't recognize that that
Like
was
little things. I remember you telling me about the zero entry into the shower. So there's no little lip or into a
right,
doorway, a
Yep.
threshold.
right, right,
Little details that how are you going to know that that's you're not
exactly.
going to know that that's aging in place until you're not tripping over your feet.
That's why you need people trained in this.
Right.
With that, again, my Southern friends, I'm fixing to start a life sizing certification in probably within the month. And that's going to be total education to our designers. And it could be the stagers, but really it's more to the design community, providing that missing link. What is missing in what it's such a win-win, you all, because it's a win-win for the client that they get the benefit, but it's a win-win for the designer to increase their referrals. I mean, imagine as that kind of like the stone in the pond, how that, ripple effect. And they'll go, oh, what a great shower. Well, Nile told me about that, or Laurie had it on her podcast. And it's these things that it's word of mouth. I think that's business is about relationship and it's about word of mouth. And so when we can be the point of this certification is we want to be at a higher level so we stand out amongst the crowded field, whatever.
Right.
And our field is crowded and there's a lot of online design and there's all kinds of Meta and A1 and all these other things. It will never, ever replace the person to person. It just is a human need. We have to be connected. And that's why after COVID sanctions were lifted, and the first conference I went to, I mean, we were like kids in a candy store, just being together. Did you
Yeah.
notice that, Laurie,
I
when
was
you came to
absolutely.
this?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just wanting like that human connection, hugs from people.
yeah. So if we can come across on the Zooms and things like this, where you almost feel like you're with the person,
Right.
right?
Right.
But
Absolutely.
yet that can be the doorway, the catalyst to get you into people's homes if you are in your own location. I've traveled and doing, some nice projects, different states and all. That's one thing. But if your bread and butter is in your location, we call that low-hanging fruit, right? And so that's a good income.
That's most designers too, by the way. I mean, most designers,
Yeah,
they might have projects that are others out of state, but
right.
most of, I would say 85, 90%
Yeah.
of the work that they do is in their local area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So becoming known as a person, especially a designer that can handle these kinds of projects and make a beautiful, very functional home that looks gorgeous, but has, is safe for any family, for a family or for a person
Right.
aging is really smart. I mean, it's a smart move,
And
marketing move.
And part of what I'm going to be doing a lot of teaching on is who are these people that are falling? Who are they? And when you look at insurance and statistics, it's not the older people.
It's not always, no. I mean, and it's not just falling, it's also sedentary lifestyle that can create like having knee problems, having hip problems. I know several people my age that have had hip replacements, have had knee replacements. Just sports for doing sports,
Well, and
or
that
doing sports in a
was what the
strenuous way.
insurance statistics say is the most the age group frequented, whatever, they're at the emergency room the most, however you say that, are like the 18 to 30.
Right.
Mhm.
Isn't that a shock?
It is.
Because they're so, we're
Well,
living
their
life and we want
frontal
that.
lobes are not fully developed and they don't know long. I mean, they really, until they're 26, you do not understand
So,
consequences. That's a
Oh
real
my God.
thing. Like,
That's a real thing.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because
So
you're like, let
real.
me jump on that. Let me, and you're like, ow. You know?
I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's unbelievable sometimes.
You get that, don't you, Nile?
Yes. The middle one. She fell down the steps the other day, and I'm like, what were you doing? Skipping. I said, you skipped down the steps, Bree? Yeah.
And
I
how old
said
is she?
11. And I
Yeah.
don't know if she's gonna make it to 12 because how do you skip down the steps?
I had one
I'm
that
like,
was
Oh,
Isabel.
I
Isabel was
hear you now.
that was younger. She was in the bath. She split her forehead open right over her eye. It was so scared. It was like really split open. Had to bring her to
oh,
the emergency room. I was like, what were you doing? She was dancing in the bathroom by herself and whacked herself on the radiator cover, split her
Excuse
eye
me.
open.
And
it's like,
speaking of bathrooms, that is the most dangerous place in our house
Sure.
yep,
because
Yeah.
it's all hard surface.
yep.
Right.
And if you have not prepared one to grab onto something, it's how many times have I heard people tell me, clients, that the only thing, Mitzi, I had was the shower curtain. And so I grabbed that and it came down on me. And, my husband comes in screaming and all that business happens all the time. I had, I get a kick out of my doctor clients, who most of them know everything.
Hmm. God complex.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And so you got to figure out how to come in the back door with these people and just love them out of their selves. But anyway, this one high level, well-known, established doctor. Uh, he was on his third wife, so that might tell you something about his personality.
Hmm.
But anyway, I tried to get, it was a beautiful remodel and money was no object. So it wasn't the money. And I was there now, Dr. Mike, we really need some kind of cool ottoman that has dripping with bouillon and all this, because his third wife, I adore her. She's from Barcelona and it's just all glitz and all this business. And she was just Googling over this idea. And he said, no, we don't need that. So I said, well, Mike, if you slip, there is nothing in here because we had the space. Not all bathrooms have the space for that. So when you know, within a year, Carlina was just super sharp, just that Barcelona avant-garde look. And she was putting on her skinny jeans and tripped, lost her
Oh,
balance
oh
actually,
no.
and her head hit the edge of the bathtub. They had a
Oh
Oh
no.
separate shower in a bathtub.
gosh.
Chipped teeth.
Oh man.
She was in pain, and then the money, and then the time away,
Mm.
getting all this fixed. So you would have been proud of me how I didn't get on the phone and go, I told you.
Get an ottoman.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
she did. She said, this Mitzi was right. We have to have something in here. And so if rooms don't have that spacing, there's lots of other things we do to make it safe. And those are the things we're going to teach in the life sizing courses, that make a difference in people's lives. And isn't that the point of
Right.
design, that we make life better?
I love
Yeah.
that you said that because that's something that I think that you've been teaching well before I know anyone in our industry was teaching about wellness. You were the first person talking about
Thank you.
wellness and how it would impact interior designers too, like their diet and their walking and their health. And you were talking about that from the very beginning, and that's reason I don't know if you know that, but that's the reason Nile and I started this podcast. Was we were
No,
recognizing designers. So we want to teach them about, anything about design that would help their productivity.
right,
But the other thing we were noticing is that designers are incredibly burned out and
right.
incredibly feeling
I've
overwhelmed
been following some of those.
and
And
avoiding their own, taking care of themselves, taking care of their
Yeah.
own health. And we'll hear from designers too. I heard from a designer yesterday who said she had a client, the client was really happy with their work, with her work, but she finished the project early, really bent over backwards to finish the project early. And the client came back and said, I don't think that because you finished so early, I think that I'm due part of the design fee back.
oh,
And she said, my old, person I was even a month ago would have
uh-huh.
said, oh, I'm not going to fight with this person. I'll give them a part of it back. I don't want to argue. But she's like, I've been listening to you guys. And so
Good. Like their
she said, I
value
told
is
her,
their
no,
value.
if you look in your contract, this is what the terms are. And the client didn't bat an eyelash and paid the designer and fully was like, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. But
Mhm. She had
she
to
didn't have
have
that
that
confidence.
encouragement that you gave.
Yes. Well, it's not just
That
Yeah.
us. I mean, it's the community of people, that
yeah.
we work with, the interior design community. We try to encourage each other and give confidence to each other, and all the designers do that for each other.
Mhm.
And it's really amazing to see the results of, you don't think it impacts somebody's career, but imagine how empowered she felt when she went home that day and how that made her feel, validated as and
Exactly.
worthy of like what her bill was, like I
Hmm.
am worth that, you
Yep.
For
know?
intellectual property that is not on the clock.
Right, right.
I
And
mean,
especially because she's not, she's a designer who has experience. So she can do things faster because she has
right.
earned it, I mean, I remember years and years ago, I had a big client that was paying me a lot of money. And it was so much money, I actually felt guilty about it. I was like,
Been there too.
this is like a lot of money,
Yeah.
and I'm not
Yeah.
doing really that much to earn it. And I remember even talking to them and trying to get them to bring the fee down a little bit because I was like, I don't know, maybe I could work it differently for you because this is a lot of money. And I was doing it based on percentage versus like I could just work for them for flat fee. And I decided to do percentage. And the percentage was a lot, So I was sort of talking myself out of it. I was talking to a colleague and he said, Laurie, at a certain point in time, they're pay you for what you know, not what you do.
That's
And I
exactly
still
right.
think that's amazing advice because that is
It
so
is.
true. At a certain point, it's not your physical labor, it's the expertise you're bringing to the
Yep.
table.
Plus,
Yep.
that's where we differentiate from being, and I don't mean to be hurting anybody's feelings, but somebody is like a furniture salesman.
Right.
Okay. And that's their world, that's their career, that's their money, and that's where they are. But you go in to say Ethan Allen, and you're buying sofas and you're buying whatever. And most of the time, these businesses, you're getting paid by what you sell.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a big transition, what you all, maybe 10 years ago, when ASID, the IDS, these other professional organizations realize that we are not salespeople. We are trained consultants. We are trained professionals. And it is our intellectual property that makes us valuable, not sales, not products. So that's been a real hard switch for a lot of designers that were used to making their money by what they sold, and I was one of them. I made a lot of money in the beginning selling product because you prove yourself to vendors like these Pearson, I don't even know if Pearson's around anymore, but Wesley Hall is these high end, and Lexington and some of these brands. Norwalk, when you can become a distributor, or a stocking dealer price as a designer, which means, what that means. Means you sell enough during the year that you get that pricing, which is
Yep.
only fair because you're selling a lot of times more than the mortar and brick. And that used to never happen, but it happens now. And I was making good money with that. But then things changed. And I had to get a grip and no, I'm not selling my soul anymore on products. My husband always says, Mitzi, you've earned the right. And we have earned the right to charge what we believe we are worth.
Right.
And we have to get to that point where if we lose a client or two because that's ridiculous. Fine. And you don't go to your doctor and say, well, I'm not paying that fee.
No.
No, but because we're considered fluff or expendable service, and then the DIY really hit us, and the online purchasing. So when you're fighting all that, why don't we grasp the concept that we have to raise our level of professionalism, market who we are, so that people know what they're getting in us versus run of the mill, I'm sorry, but just somebody that hasn't prepared themselves. And again, I'm not pushing this life sizing, but I'm having the opportunity to say, this will say, I know what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
I have this certification.
And I'm thinking about the total package too. I'm not just thinking about what's beautiful. I'm thinking beyond what's beautiful and what is going to serve you the best long term for your life, what's going to be a good investment in your home. I'm thinking about beyond what's popular, beyond what's trending.
Yeah,
To
right.
serve you long term,
May I touch on our designer's health?
Sure. Yes.
I have been, like you said, into the lifestyle of all of us. And in the book, Nile, the acronym is SMARTS. And the first S is for space, but the R is for our routine. And so that is all about how we live. And it's, the stress and the sleep and the balanced food and all of that. It's not just like being a size 8, which is like ridiculous. That's not even in the mindset. And so we as women, particularly, Nile, put everybody ahead of ourselves. And
Agreed.
it's
Agreed.
everybody and everything else. And we almost, like you were talking, Laurie, about feeling guilty. Women feel guilty taking care of themselves or spending money where they need to spend money. And for instance, I started getting facials not like Botox and like heavy duty stuff, although I probably should have.
I have done Botox. Don't worry.
My daughter is always, you need to do
It's preventative. It's preventative.
yes. Well, but the point is, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
okay to do that, to take care of yourself. And just as, and so when you put a female in an interior design profession, what happens? Everything, anything takes charge of them saying, no, I can't take your job right now, but I'd be happy to in, 6 weeks or whatever. But and then just flipping over inside out backwards to meet everybody's needs. I've been there. I'm talking about what I did forever. And I paid the price.
Right.
I know what that does to you. Stress,
The stress.
physical exhaustion. And, like you were saying, Laurie, about backs and hips and all of that business because of lack of exercise.
And because design is also, when it's needed, a very physical job too. So you're not
Absolutely.
exercising, and then the day of installs or something, you're moving everything, and you're
Right.
much more likely to, I just was talking to my husband on our walk this morning, and he
Good for
said
you guys are
that
walking.
I walk every day. So
Atta girl.
he said that he had learned on TikTok that if you're over 45 years old, which is young, you should
Right.
not be shoveling your driveway anymore. You should never be shoveling, because doctors and nurses have a little song, I guess, on TikTok about not shoveling, because apparently the cold temperatures and
Ah,
the increase, that you're much more likely to have a heart attack in those conditions, because you're increasing
wow.
your heart rate at such a rate, and then your vessels are so constricted because it's cold, it's likely
Oh,
to give you a heart attack. And of course, we live in
Yeah.
New Hampshire, and
yes.
so my parents
Wow.
shoveled and snow blowed and my whole life. So
And Virginia has snow, darling.
yes,
So
yes.
if you
So
end
it's
up
just
there.
like, it's you just don't know, these health factors. We happen to see it because we were noticing somebody had their air conditioning unit in, and I was thinking, like, people do get into an age where they can't do that. Maybe he still has, he didn't put it in recently because it's March, but maybe it's because he couldn't take it out,
Yeah, right,
because
right.
moving that
Right.
kind of thing as you get older,
Well,
that's
and
why.
designers think they're infallible.
Yeah,
I used to move furniture,
yeah,
and I mean, I would just not think, I would be impatient, and I
yeah,
didn't think anything about it. And I wanted to scooch this over or whatnot. My back took such a toll that when we would drive to Denver every 2 hours, I had to get out and walk because my back was such a mess.
right.
Finally got it all. Yoga at 55, started yoga, healed my back, my whole everything. But Bob said, if you move furniture, Mitz, and you hurt your back again, I'm going to hurt your back. We're not going through this again. Wise up, lady. And it is that whole thing. But I tell
Right,
you, the three pillars that I stand on, and I started this a while back, and it's in the book, Laurie, is the attitude and the mind. That's the most important pillar, because unless you decide that you're going to put yourself, where some people are into faith or whatever it might be, that might be their top priority. And then it's family. But somewhere in those top priorities has to be yourself and
right,
your self-care. And that's an attitude, a mindset. Unless you decide, it takes 21 days to make a habit.
right.
So I am lax on doing weights. I say I write it in my planner. I write it and I have it on my everything. I put my weights out there, and it's like I still
I do the
haven't.
same thing. I hate doing weightlifting, but I'll do it. I do it.
Yeah. So I'm going to do that. But my point is, it's a mindset. I have to make the habit.
Right.
Like walk in the morning, Laurie and Nile. I'm sure you do something if you have, being a family man and all. But my husband's not good at that. And he was captain of the football team for Division I football. And so he's left brain. and very focused, very detailed. You think we're opposites? Miracle hair. Because I'm like big picture. Oh yeah, well, let's have fun.
That's the best marriages though.
Yeah.
Opposites, I think that makes the best marriage. And I've met Bob. He is funny too. So
He could be.
he'll
He
keep you
just
laughing, I'm
he
sure.
just shakes his head like, oh, what are you doing now? But the point is, it's all discipline and habit. So
Yes.
until we have that mindset, then the
And it
other
affects everything else. So you're doing,
exactly.
these things, so your stress levels can go down. I've told Nile this, like, I think probably too many times, is like, I really honestly do spend time thinking about last night. There was an interior designer I know out there in the world, many of them who spent all night up because they're worried about a project,
Yes.
worried
Yeah.
about the furniture coming in, worried about
Yeah.
telling a client something that they don't want to hear, and they're
Yeah.
not sleeping at night because they're
Right.
stressed out. They're that
Oh yeah.
stressed out.
That's a
And
very
when you
hard
think
thing.
about that, I don't want even one designer to lose a night's sleep because of something that is so out of their hands. They can't help it if something came in and it's broken. They can't help it if something is delayed. This is not in their hands. And I know they're the first person that gets dumped on, but they have to learn the mindfulness to compartmentalize and realize this is out of my control and I am going to handle this. I know myself that I am a professional.
You're good,
I will
Laurie.
fix
You're
it,
very good. I wish I would have had that
you know?
like 20 years ago
Yes.
because I'm a recovering pleaser.
Yes.
Yep.
And
Yes.
Me too.
yeah, you get it, Nile. And
Yeah.
so we don't want people upset with us.
No,
Nope.
no.
And
I
there's
think that's every designer. I think every designer is like, I just don't want anyone to be mad at me.
yeah.
Yeah.
And boy, when you can shed that and go, I've done the best I can do, and
Hmm.
the rest is just going to have to work itself out. I mean, I have fixed all kinds of problems. And one of
Right.
the things I've learned is just to let the client simmer down and keep letting
And
them
honestly, you
vent.
did fix all those problems. And did any of that, in the end of the day, did stressing out help that situation? Did
Absolutely
not
no,
sleeping help that? Did it get the furniture,
no,
make the furniture come faster?
no,
Did it make
no,
No.
the client
no.
happier? No, all it does is ruin your day. You know
Yeah.
Well,
what I-
yeah, but it's the anticipation of what
The
could
what?
when
Yeah.
you deliver the news. And it took a client. I mean, I've been that designer. I'm still in that designer, to be honest, at times. A lot of times that's up late, stressing over projects or lack thereof.
Mhm.
But it took a client, one of my favorite clients, to tell me um that I forget how she said it, but I said, I just hate delivering bad news. And she said, well, first of all, I'm an attorney. And she said, I deal in bad news all the time.
Ah,
She said, so you let me decide what bad news is. Just give me the information.
Right.
And
oh,
she said, because for me, everything is information. And then I'll decide what bad news is. And
oh, wow.
that was such a gift to me,
Yes, yes.
Yes.
and so
We think everything's like the Chicken Little, the sky's falling in.
yeah,
To them, it may not be that big of a deal. It's like, oh, okay.
yeah,
Or, okay, so tell me when or what.
yeah,
And
yeah.
even if they don't think that, even if they are upset, that is their emotion to feel. That is not your emotion to feel. They are
Well, that's
allowed
the
to, this
truth.
is a stressful while you are the person that understands that at the end of the day, you're the expert. You've done these projects multiple times. You know that sometimes things go wrong and you fix it.
Right.
Yep.
You're capable. They don't know that. That's their first time. So you have to recognize like they're going to have their feelings. That's okay. That's fine. You know, it's my job just to tell them what the news is and help manage
So
that the best I can. But at the end of the day,
you
it's
guys can
furniture.
help the interior designers a lot, just this one fact and how to handle it. Because I it took me a long time to learn that, and I ruined a lot of nights and dumped on my family or my husband in a bad mood. They
Yep.
didn't know why. And I'm, just kind of a Debbie Downer, like unhappy client, and my world is over, my business is done.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and I, I did not have it in perspective, you guys, in the beginning for a long time. And I will say, Nile, I don't know where you are on your experience or,
His experience, yeah.
degrees or anything
Yes.
like that.
Yep.
Mhm.
But doesn't that
Two.
give you the confidence?
It does, I think, but I think what happened to me is because a lot of what you said in the beginning was so true. I used to have that battle in school. I took an ADA. We had an ADA studio, which was very,
Okay.
very informative, and I
Oh,
loved
yeah,
that class because I used to
sure.
argue all the time within rendering and presentation that you're paying attention to the beauty and the pretty, and nobody's
Right,
paying attention to the space planning and what is the point at this.
right,
Who cares if it's beautifully colored, or
yeah,
watercolored, because the
right,
space planning is horrible. But I
right.
think unfortunately what happened, what I found happened, is my value went into the things because I love HGTV.
Mm,
I'm very thankful to them for what have done for me, and they kept the
Yeah, right,
conversation going. But
right.
I think a lot of time the value goes into the stuff because we live in a tangible society.
Mm,
And so people appreciate the end result or
right,
when the stuff shows up. And they don't
right.
necessarily know that it's what's between the ears. So I had to shift my perspective and how I did things to start teaching that lesson. So like my contract now says, like, you pay a lot of money way before you see the stuff. And
Mm,
so then the client's like, oh my God, I'm giving you so much money. And I said, yeah, because the bulk of the work, I know you think, I said, anybody can put furniture in your room, but
Exactly,
really what you're paying for happens at this point. Like
right.
the design and all that, all the good stuff, all the like creative stuff, all the juice
Mm,
is really happening here. So
right.
that's what you're paying for. So by me shifting my contract and having the fee schedule adjusted in
Mhm.
percentage, that
I
way
love that. I
clients
love
start
that.
to understand. They're like, oh, I see why I'm paying you 35% and then 35% and then not paying the other, remaining 30% until the end, or, I get it now.
Right.
So yeah, I
Yeah,
school has helped, but sort of me shifting once I got out, away from stuff. But I still have that struggle a lot,
and I think the reason now I mentioned the school, not that that's always a bar of excellence, but to me, whatever we do to improve ourselves, education wise, gives us the confidence.
Yeah.
Yes,
And that to me is where a lot of us have fallen short of being more assertive, is
yes,
that we know what we're talking about because of blah, blah, blah. And one of
yes.
my biggest frustrations is when a client will say, well, my contractor, he feels that this, or my neighbors
Oh,
feel, I just go through the roof. It's
yeah,
like nails on the blackboard. I
yep,
don't, and I'll say, if I get really ticked off and they've pushed and pushed me about this, I'll go, look, guys, I do not design by committee. And I have loved working with you, but we're going to talk about this now. And if we can't come to an agreement that you hired me because blah, 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 but I don't want to hear everybody's opinion. And I understand if this is the way you want to operate, but that's not how I run my business. And when I got to the point where I knew that I knew, by George, what I was talking about, I took no prisoners, but I took it no prisoners in a way that was very professional and very tactful, and
yeah,
left them with, I can recommend others to you. But in any business, whether it's a doctor, a designer, whatever it is, not all personalities connect.
nope.
And then most of the time, unfortunately, you guys, they would go, oh, no, 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 we get it. I was trying to like
No,
shed.
I
Shut
think that
them
makes
off. Like, you
that's
can
the
go.
I think that's the best way to be. I was on a project and a contractor did that. It was myself, the contractor, the flooring guy, and we were walking through with the client, and the client said, "Oh, let me know about the plumbing, because my cousin is a plumber and he can probably," and he didn't even get it out. And the contractor turned and said, did you guys exchange cards?" And I said, yes. And he asked the flooring guy, did you exchange cards? And the flooring guy was like, yes. And we're looking at him confused. And he said, okay, great. He hands the client his business card. And he said, this is where I get off. Have a nice day. And the client said, what? And he said, I don't play those games. You can
Mm,
have your cousin do the plumbing. He said, but I'm the
excellent.
GC, and
Yeah.
then you're trying to GC. So
Mhm.
this is where I leave. Have a nice day.
Nice.
And I was like, whoa. I mean, he didn't even miss a beat. And I was
Mhm.
like, I was stunned, but I was very impressed at the same time. I was like, I
Right.
need some of that. That's what I need on my project.
Where did you get that confidence?
Yes. I'm like, oh, wait, stick around. I need you to give me a few pointers.
And
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 this actually leads me to something that Mitzi told me years and years ago, and I've like literally I love collecting quotes that people tell me that I think are really
uh-oh,
just
I
brilliant.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
so good though. It's so good, and I think it's really a kind of along those lines. And she told me years ago, and I still tell my kids this, and they know it by heart. That if I bring it out, they're like, "Oh, that's Mitzi Beach. I know. Yeah, yeah, yeah." But she said, 10% of people, for
Yeah.
whatever reason, they just click with you. And 10% of people, for whatever reason, when they meet you, they just don't click with you. And 80% of those people in the middle can be swayed by whoever they're talking to. So it could be they're talking to the 10% and that like you, and then they like you. And it could be that the 10% that don't like you and they don't like you. And to me,
Wow.
that's such a great quote because it's about that 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 connection we have with others is really not our fault, or if it's
And
there
it
or
is
it's not. And we just
exactly.
can't take it so personally. So you go to that client meeting, you meet
Mm,
them, you love that project, they didn't hire you, you're like, oh, why am I not good? Did I not do this? Did I not do that? It's not your fault. It could just
No.
be you're the 10%.
Yep. And I
Maybe you
heard it
even feel it a
also
little bit, to
said,
be honest, you feel it too, that like, oh, this wouldn't be somebody I would be friends with, you know?
right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I've heard it
And
recently in the last few
Shannon
years.
Jem said something too the other day. She was awesome. I think I was telling her about this quote, and she said, I don't want to work for someone I don't click with because it's not even fair to them.
It's not
They're
going to
going to
work.
be with someone, a designer, for 2 years. You want that experience to be good for them too. If I don't like you, that's
Mhm.
not fair to you for me
yeah,
to
yeah.
do that, to spend that time with you
But
for
it
those years.
really does release this pressure to being all things to all people, right?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
impossible.
Well,
And when we can
Mm.
accept that, and Laurie, now I hear it more, 25% are going to love you no matter what.
oh, that'd be great.
5% are going to never love you.
Right.
It you drive this car, or you're this background, or you're this or whatever. Things that are prejudicial against you,
Mm-hmm.
whatever
Right.
that may be. Could be your age, it could
Mm-hmm.
be anything. And then 50% in the middle is conditional. If you march to their drummer, you're going to be okay with them.
Right.
But on any given day, 75% of people are not going to be in your corner because you
Mm.
haven't walked the walk according to what they expect of you or who you appear to be. And that's reality, isn't it, guys? I mean, it just is a fact that we're all made so differently, and we all have such different values. And today, everything is just really getting to the point where we have to. Um, I work so hard to honor where people are, where they are, and they may think they know who Mitzi is and prejudge me before I open my mouth. I can't help that. I can't do anything about that. But what I can do is when I'm in conversation and online, I don't do stuff. I see some things on politics and knocking faith or whatever it is. And that is just, it's so non-professional, and it's so it's just, it's awful. And so if somebody do you know Carolyn Hipple, Laurie?
Yes. Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful Carolyn. We've connected on Norwalk furniture and whatnot. I just respect her, and I spoke at their Norwalk meeting one time. Well, you know how we're hacked now? They can get on and
Sure.
say things and make it be like you. And I probably shouldn't have mentioned her name, so maybe not say that. But she said, I have to unfriend you, Mitzi. I'm just shocked at what you said online. And I had no idea what it was. I had no idea who had done it. And I'm seeing more and more of this happening.
Oh
So
yeah. We had
it,
Mary Douglas Drysdale, who she's a design
yes,
icon. You
oh
see
Yep.
what
yes,
happened to her?
I
She had her
yes, it was
Facebook page hacked,
like
porn on her Facebook
pornography.
page.
Oh my
Yep,
gosh.
yep.
Ugh. It's like
And
I didn't.
and
Mary
so
Douglas Drysdale, why are they doing this to her of all
I
people? I'm like
know of
literally
all
up at night so
people,
mad about it.
but I listened to quite a bit of Ross Dunn, and that was
Yes.
excellent. And so a thought is for you all to who would be an expert to let us know how to know this is even happening. I mean,
Well, I
how
can tell
do
you,
we
you know,
know?
the main thing that you need to do and everybody needs to do is double authentication on
Yeah,
all
two-factor. Yeah.
two-factor on all of your
And I
apps. So
think
it's
he's
Facebook, it's so you
didn't
have to
Ross
connect your
say
phone
that?
basically, phone number.
Yep.
Double authentication. You can look it up for Facebook,
Okay,
Instagram, TikTok, all of them have LinkedIn, all of the social media platforms have it.
the
You
double
your phone number, and if they suspect
authentication.
anything, so somebody's trying to log in under as you,
Mhm.
that you will get that. You will get a notification on your phone. It'll say, hey, you know, and if you do get one of those and you know it's not you, immediately go and change your password for whatever that is,
Yeah.
because somebody has tried to attempt to log in as you. 99% of the time, people are not actually hacked. What happens is accounts are duplicated, and that often happens by bots. So it could be my profile picture, it could have a bunch of, you know, my friends even, because they'll hack you by stealing your photo, stealing your regular cover image, and then they'll start friending your friends. So it won't do
Yeah.
anything at first. It'll just start friending your friends. And then it kind of looks more like it's you because it's got 30 people that were friends with anyway, or like you started a new account or something. And then it will start messaging those people, hey, I, you know, lost my identification and my credit card. Can you help me out? You know, I'm
Yeah,
in I'm in Barcelona and my wallet got stolen. I've had it literally happen from other friends to me.
right.
The other thing that happens is they will send you an email that looks very, very similar
Oh,
to a
I get
real
those
email,
all the time. Right.
and it will say you need to log in, and people will voluntarily put in their password.
I can't imagine
It
being that
looks
one.
identical. I mean, it will even could say
Oh,
facebook.com,
I know.
you know,
Or government things.
or
I
the
mean,
government,
I've had a
or
lot of
your
those.
banking information,
Yeah.
or what, you know,
Never.
it's just
Yeah.
trying to get you from that email to log into your account. And that's
And
once they've
those
got
I
that
think we're
password.
smart enough to know it's
Yeah.
this taking your identity on social media.
Yeah.
So that double, and I'll check that out.
I mean, I
But
can tell you, I've had double authentication on since the very beginning. I have very big accounts. I've never been
mhm,
hacked.
Yeah.
good.
And
And see, I have, and then once I went to double authentication, never had an issue after.
never will happen
Yeah.
again. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can get it back. It takes a lot of effort, but it
Yeah.
takes months and months of reporting
Oh,
because
yeah.
no person actually looks at those report, you know. So there's a Facebook, you can go in and you can submit a report, and it's a picture of yourself, and it's like, this is me, and my account got hacked. I've gotten an account back that happened to that got shut down. It took me, I think, 45 days of every single day submitting that claim. Every day, every day, every day submitting that claim. And then they don't write to you and tell you that they gave your account back. It will just all of a sudden work.
Just come back. It's
It will
there.
just come back. So
Yeah.
it's crazy
Uh,
because no one will ever
anyway,
tell you.
no.
That's how it works. Yeah.
Well, I think what I want to leave with I mean, my time is yours time
Yes.
right now,
Thank you. Thank you.
but I'm not on a deadline or anything like that, you all, but is to get through to our design community that they are their biggest asset, that
Yes.
they have to take care of themselves first. Because my Facebook group, 50 plus, life sizing for the 50 plus, the philosophy, the model, whatever is I say, we do more for ourselves so that we can be more for others.
I love
It's
it.
in a nutshell, right? And now it's what you were nodding your head about women, but it's men too. We
Yeah.
all have to take care of ourselves so that, especially, an add-on to that is it's a mentor of mine. I believe in mentors, and I've had 3. And somebody above us, whether it's age, wisdom, or professional wisdom, critically important to have that in your life. And she was like, Mitzi, you're just spinning all the time. She said, is your family getting your leftovers? Where are you at the end of your workday? What is your family getting from Mitzi? And I was like cold water threw on me. And what is this all worth if my family feels like they don't matter, that everything else is more important than them. And it takes energy to care for people, for a spouse, a partner, even 11-year-old girl now.
And
Yeah.
a client too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
Energy.
Yeah.
They're the biggest babies.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. They can be. Yeah.
no, I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's a drain. The client drain is a given, but how much draining are we allowing that we have a reserve for those people that really matter?
Right.
And that's the big toughie question.
Right.
And so I taught Mitzi many, many years into this. I'm not open for business 24/7. I don't take texts at night. I don't respond to emails at night. I don't do that. I'm a business and just like anybody else. And so that's my time to do more for Mitzi so I can be more for others. Now, there's exceptions to everything. If I have a hot client and she's ready to jump off the ledge or he is, well, surely I'm going to get connected with them. And so that they're not up all night and I'm up all night, that's the exception. But our world now, it's like we should be open 24/7. And that's not right.
Right.
It's not good for our health. It's not good for setting boundaries. And we didn't even talk about boundaries, but that's where the boundary stops and starts,
Mm.
where you are on how much you allow into your life that shouldn't be coming in at these times. And that's that.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Mitzi. I really appreciated you taking the time to talk to our
Oh,
audience.
goodness.
And Nile, thanks always for joining me. I appreciate it so
Yes.
much. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.